In this video, you're going to learn how to work with requests and BeautifulSoup modules in Python to conduct web attacks. We're going to be using a lab on Attack Defense Labs, which is a platform to exercise and grow your penetration testing and cybersecurity skills. Now, as you can see here, we're dealing with a web portal and we need to do some initial recon and then actually brute force authentication, all using Python. There's everything installed for us in the lab, and we will be using Jupyter notebooks. So I'm going to open up the lab. So clicking the lab link is going to take me to this location, and we can see three files: the lab with solutions, and a dictionary file containing passwords. Okay, so we'll go into the lab, the simple lab file. Again, we're going to use requests and BeautifulSoup. They are already installed, so I only have to import them. If you will be working with them, you can simply install them via pip in a terminal or a command prompt. So you can simply do pip or pip3 install requests and pip or pip3 install BeautifulSoup 4, and that's it. Now, to get a very similar scenario to the one that I have here, you could install a virtual machine in VMware or VirtualBox and then install a vulnerable CMS on the machine, like the one we're attacking in this scenario. And that's all for free. Or, like I'm doing in this case, you could get a subscription on Attack Defense, whichever you find best suitable for you. Now, I'm using Attack Defense Labs platform for convenience here, for no setup and for your better understanding. Alright, we have a popular CMS on port 80, we have the libraries installed, and we also have the dictionary file. All good. First, we need to check if the web portal is up using a GET request, and that's as simple as import requests and then requests.get http 127.0.0.1, and I execute this code or this cell using shift and enter. We get a response 200, which is the HTTP code or status for OK. Alright, let's move on. So server software being used. We're going to do something similar, and we're going to instantiate in this case, we're going to instantiate the request in a variable. So let's say rec underscore requests.get http 127.0.0.1. Now, what is great about the request module is that once it's made a request, it saves the response in a very accessible and parsable manner. In this case, we have the response of the request in the rec underscore variable. And to answer the question, we usually find a lot of information in the response headers. So, which server software is being used? We can simply say rec underscore dot headers and then shift enter to execute the cell, and we can see Nginx. Okay, moving on. Number 3. We are being asked for the headers, and we already did that with the request underscore dot header. Now for task 4, we need to get the content or the text content of localhost homepage. Also, can you tell which CMS is running on localhost? What we need here is the content. So we'll say rec underscore dot content. So as you can see, I've hit dot and then hit the tab. Now in this case, we can simply access all the methods available at our disposal. Like for example, we can get the cookies, the encoding, the history, JSON, so the request in JSON format, next, we can see the raw request and all that stuff. So in this case, we need the text content of localhost homepage. And that's as easy as rec underscore dot content. Shift enter, and we can see this content. This also can be done with rec underscore dot text, and if I do this as a comment, we basically get a very similar response. But anyway, this doesn't look pretty nice. So it says also, can you tell which CMS is running on localhost? So if we look into this code, we can see title, target, WordPress. So we can safely assume that this is actually WordPress running as a CMS on the local host. Now moving on to number 5, we need to print this ugly response in a pretty form using BeautifulSoup. So we start with a variable. Actually, first we start with importing from BS4 import BeautifulSoup. This is how you import BeautifulSoup. Then we need a variable, let's call it soup equals BeautifulSoup, and then rec_.text. We need to specify an HTML.parser, which is going to be our parser. So we actually need to tell BeautifulSoup to use Python's built-in HTML parser to parse our request. And then we'll use the prettify method to print the content in a more readable way. So we'll say print soup.prettify. Awesome. As you can see, this looks much better. Alright, now number 6, print the title of a web portal hosted on localhost. Now, similar to requests, BeautifulSoup has a lot of methods to access the content, such as HTML elements in this case. Here we would simply need to actually print the soup.title. Now, the great thing about Python is that there's at least a library for everything you need for whatever purpose you may have, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel by writing code from scratch. Now, be my guest to do that if you want, but in penetration testing I want to automate. I want to get things done fast and very efficiently. Alright, now 7 and 8 are very similar, so we'll just jump right into 8. Scrape all URLs from the homepage of localhost and print unique URLs. So we'll start by creating a variable, let's say home underscore, and then we'll do requests.get http localhost. Okay, and then we'll create a soup equals BeautifulSoup homepage or home underscore dot content. And we also need to specify the HTML parser, of course. Now, we need to look for all URLs, and in HTML, these are denoted by the A element. So we'll say images equals soup.find all A href equals true. Then we'll create an empty list. So we'll say images underscore href. We have an empty list and populate it with the URLs using a for loop. So we'll say for image in images. We'll say images underscore href append. So we need to append to this list image href. Alright, so now we have a list which may contain duplicates and we're required, as we can see, to print unique URLs. So for that we can simply make a set of our list which will contain no duplicates, as this is an inherent property in sets. You can check my Python basics course in which I go into more details about sets and lists. Alright, so this is as simple as images underscore href. Actually, another variable image set is going to be images, is going to be a set of images dot href. What we're left to do is to print the elements of the set. So again, using a for loop, we can simply say for image in images set print img. Alright, shift enter to run that. And as we can see, we get a nice list of unique elements. Alright, now for the fun part. Let's do some web attacking. So task 9, can you access the admin section of the CMS? We already know how to do this. So let's say word _p equals requests.cat http localhost wp admin. This is what we're requested to try and access. And then let's actually do a soup.word _p is going to be a beautiful soup of word _p.text. And of course we need to specify the HTML parser. Alright. And then let's also print the soup _word p dot prettify. Okay. Shift enter to run this. So if we look a little bit into it, we could infer it's a login form, and we'll need this information in task number 10. So over here, which says that we need to brute force the WordPress login for user admin. Use the given dictionary. So remember that we have a dictionary called password _dictionary. A couple of pointers. Since we're dealing with a login form, we'll be using a post request instead of a get request. So if we look at the code again, we can see input class ID user login name log, input type text. We could also see input class user pass, name pwd, type password. We need this information when we create our post request, because we're going to send a post request to this form. Again, so what we need to do is a post request and send the username to the field log and a password to the field pwd. This is what our browsers basically do when we authenticate. Now in this case we'll be brute forcing the password for username admin as requested, and we'll try all the passwords in the dictionary file by sending them one by one to the pwd field. This is what we're going to code here. So for that, first we need to instantiate a variable for our password file. So let's say pass file equals password _ dictionary.txt, and then we'll encapsulate everything in a with construct in Python. So we'll say with open pass file in read mode as f, for word in f. First we need to make sure that each line in the file is clean and only contains a word, so we'll strip the line for trailing spaces, otherwise our attack might fail. So we'll say word equals word.strip, new line, and here's the most important part, the actual post request. So let's say trying _ equals requests.post. We're going to make a post request to http localhost wp admin. Actually, we need to make a request not to wp admin but to wp login.php. So wp login.php, and then we need to send the data in a dictionary. So data is going to, we need to send log the username admin. So we need to send to log admin. To log we need to send the username admin because this is what we've been requested. And then for password, so for the pwd field, we need to send our word. Okay, every time you try to log in with a wrong password, the response of the request will contain the word error. Hence, we can infer that if this word error is not in the response, our brute force succeeded and we found the password. So how do we actually code this? We'll say if error not in trying underscore dot text, we'll simply say print success, the password is, and then plus word, and then we exit the loop. We'll say break, or else we'll say print incorrect password plus word, of course. Alright, that's just about it. Now let's run this cell with shift enter, and it's probably going to take a while to finish, so I'll skip forward. So shift enter, you can see all the incorrect passwords. And there you have it. The password is password1. Now this is how you can use requests and BeautifulSoup in Python to conduct recon, enumerate, and attack web servers. Always only attack on assets you have permission. I need to specify this at all times. Okay, now we won't be doing tasks 11 and 12 because they are not in the scope of this video. As always, there is much more to requests and BeautifulSoup than what I've shown here. Therefore, if you want to get deeper understanding of them, start by studying their official documentation, which you can easily find via a browser search.